we need to transform theory, negotiations and complaining into practical terms now to make a difference. And therefore we need another revolution.
He was a buffalo soldier. He was a buffalo soldier. Stolen from Africa. Brought to America.
The South African youth, just like 1976, the current South African youth should borrow some lessons from 1976, how, for example, to organize at a national level, guerrilla style and so on, but organize at a national level because we have the numbers, we have the economic muscle in the form of the labor force in this country. So to unite the two and actually say, what is it that we have that gives us advantage if we were actually to seek justice by any means, they should rise, because if they are not rising to demand what belongs to the native African, what is also going to help them out of the economic shackles that were devised and imposed on them by the white system. In order to deal with all of that, they need to be angry enough and therefore rise against it, just like we did in 1976. The thing is, the land belongs to the people by birthright, So I think that's one of the strongest weapons or motivating factor for them to actually fight to the bitter end if they have to. Just like I use the example of 1976, we also realize that, the resistance, the liberation struggle movements were up against, a very strong conventional army, and there was no way that, head to head, the liberation struggle movements would make an impact, given the support also that the apartheid army was enjoying and so on. So guerrilla option, the guerrilla warfare became the best option, just as we saw also in other southern Africa countries like Rhodesia or Zimbabwe and Mozambique, Angola, and you name it, Namibia with SWAPO and so on, So, the only option that was left faced with a huge, strong and, Western supported army was to resort to guerrilla warfare. We saw how successful, even in places like Cuba. We have been, as native Africans, theorizing for far too long about our circumstances, our social circumstances, the oppression, unemployment, besieged by crime, and you name it, and I think, the time for continuous theorizing, talk, negotiations, also has its place and limit, After 30 years, we can't be witnesses to another generation growing under the yoke of the white system of oppression and so on. And I'm saying we should be angry enough and rise. We need another revolution in South Africa. Otherwise, we also gonna die or witness our young people dying on their knees because nothing has changed. The other thing, last thing, the the enemy is no longer, the enemy of the native African people is no longer just the white settler. You know, it includes the black bourgeoisie also. We must recognize that and understand this is the reason why certain elements or leaders of the ANC were recruited into the white system to build that black bourgeois that would then become a buffer zone between the resistance of the indigenous native African and the white supremacy. So that needs to be recognized. And the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we can understand why the ANC is failing to make qualitative changes, social transformation in this country. It's because, you know, a significant number of them, COSATU, SACP members, have been won over, have been incorporated into the white institutes, and therefore they are defending the project that they have become managers of. So hopefully we can engage on this topic on a much deeper level, you know, where we share ideas, broad ideas on the same topic, and particularly the fact that I'm saying the time for theory negotiations is long gone. We need to transform theory, negotiations and complaining into practical terms now to make a difference. And therefore we need another revolution, but it must be in practical terms to make the necessary difference towards justice for the native African.